co-host, Dr. Mario Salas. And so today, folks, we're going to have a skull session, and we're going to talk about our first hot topic today is we're going to talk about wokeness. And what
W-O-K-E?
W-O-K-E, what it means and how the term was hijacked. Right, and so like many other of our African American idioms and terms and linguistics have been transformed by the mainstream and completely made to mean something completely opposite to what it was originally intended for. So yeah, Mario. So with woke, let's talk about the evolution, right? The linguistic evolution, and what does wokeness mean? What was it intended to mean, and what does it mean now? So,
well, yeah, that's a good way to start off. When I was growing up, and you as well, I'm sure, and any black person, even the younger ones, who stayed woke. There's actually a series put on by Black Lives Matter called the Truth Series called Stay Woke. And just some examples. Two guys are standing on the corner, or two guys are at work. Doesn't have to be the corner, at work. And somebody says, "Man, that Donald Trump is nothing but a Nazi racist." Somebody says that. Then the other guy says, "I'm woke, buddy. I'm woke, brother. You don't have to go no further. I'm woke."
Yeah.
Or somebody else says, "Man, that guy stole so-and-so's hamburger." Then the other guy might say, "I'm woke. I know what he does." So in the black community, not in the white community, in the black community, being woke only meant that you were in tune, one way or the other, about what was going on. So it spoke to a level of awareness.
Right.
Woke means you're not asleep. Let's look at it real simply.
Yeah.
If you're not asleep, if you're awake, and if you're woke, that kind of puts a greater emphasis on the word "I'm awake."
Yeah.
See, black folks are not going to say "I'm awake, man." They're going to say, "No, I'm woke." So awake, not woke, is an interesting take on it, because awake might just be a simple. The English way of pronouncing things. Well, black folks never learned English when they got off the slave ship. They had to kind of halfway. What did he say? Woke, wake, what? I think he said. He said danger. No, he said dangerous. He didn't say dangerous. He said dangerous.
Dangerous. Yeah.
So that emphasis becomes a clue to how serious it may be. So someone in the black community who knows the culture of intonation, given a different up level in the sound of the voice, or not saying too much about it, because I could simply say "I'm woke," or I could say "I'm woke." That's different from just saying "I'm woke."
Yeah.
Right. So it's like I already know. The other one is "I'm woke" means I really know what's going on with this stuff. So the change in the volume of the diction, and then the change of the emphasis in the diction, is what's important in Black English. So look, they picked on, from my understanding, I could be wrong, Tim Scott, the black senator who's a Republican, is the one who started telling his masters, and I mean that literally too. Telling his master, there he is, look at him smiling. Happy. He's the guy that said, "I love you, Trump. I love you, man." But because he's such a servile. What's a fancy academic word for servile? He's a sycophant. In the community, look, black folks don't. Hey man, what's a sycophant? I'm not woke. And then somebody says he's a kiss. Yeah, A-double-S.
Kiss butt, yeah.
Or kiss butt. Or a brown noser. Then now you know what a sycophant means. Okay?
Right.
So he's somebody who sucks up to whoever's in power to the point of traitorous behavior.
Right.
So from what I gather, it was Tim Scott who came up with this idea that black people who are aware of white supremacy, black people who are woke to racism, black people who understand the dynamics, the social structure of white supremacy, who are awoke to that.
Right.
Then Tim Scott started telling white folks, woke is something that they want us to believe in. It's false. So he created this anti-woke movement, and him and some other, not just him, other cronies created this anti-woke movement, and to give black people a bad taste in their mouth, but to give white people something to hang on to. And I don't mean all white people. I mean racialized whites who view white supremacy as something still important in their life, even though there's no such thing as white people. Now, that was invented too. Right. But so being against woke doesn't make any sense to most black folks.
Right.
So, and it doesn't resonate with anybody. They even had the lady who's running around Texas talking about the Alamo and giving a false story about the Alamo, talking about it was not about slavery. Buckingham is her name. Mm-hmm. She's even running around telling people we don't need to have anything that deals with woke ideology.
Right.
Which means we're not supposed to talk about slavery. Right. Guess what? We're still talking about slavery and we're not going to stop.
But I mean, yeah, again, it's a woke ideology. It just means to be just aware, you know what I mean? Intellectually aware, culturally aware, socially aware. And so, yeah, and so they've taken this term, flipped it on its head, and made it transform it to be something negative. It used to be something positive. So our community is like, hey, stay woke, brother. You know what I mean? Or hey, bro, you know what I mean? I'm woke. Or you know, it was a source of pride that you were intellectually aware, that you were culturally aware. Or we say, hey man, that brother's woke. You know what I mean? That brother was on point. We knew that he knew what it was about. You know what I mean?
And that's why black folks are using their hands when they say I'm woke.
He was on code. That's what it means. You on code when you woke, you know. But yeah, so Mario, you know what? You went there. So we're gonna go there, right? You mentioned the idea, right? So this is me and Mario. We freestyle in our skull session today. So y'all, you coming along? You coming along with us? So you talking about the invention of whiteness? We're going there.
Yeah, let's go there for a hot second.
All right. So. I'm gonna lead you off.
Lead me off.
I'm gonna lead you off. I'm gonna get you cranked up.
Make me woke.
I'm gonna get you wound up. So this idea of white, right? This invention of whiteness, this 20th century term, right? Because prior to that, right, the Irish were not white, the Italians were not white, right? Your darker folks from southern Spain were not white.
Nope.
Your darker folks from Portugal, right? From
Eastern Europe too.
A lot of folks from
just
Eastern
maybe
Europe.
a small amount,
Right.
but they weren't completely white.
Right. And so even a lot of the folks that lived in what they call the Jewish Pale, or you know, the certain areas of the Soviet Union, right? Mm-hmm. If you were Jewish, you were not white. Right. And so it was just this idea of looking around and saying, "Yo, we are outnumbered." So welcome to whiteness, right?
Yeah, welcome to whiteness. Welcome to the invented race.
Right. We need some numbers around here. So look, we gotta start making. Look, if you even if you're southern, if you're dark haired, you're from southern Germany, you're white now, right? If you're French, and we don't care if you're Garlic or wherever you came from.
Last name is Rodriguez. We're gonna make you white too.
You're gonna be white, right? So whiteness no longer was not about an ethnicity, but now it's about a skin color, right? Mm-hmm. This invention of whiteness. And so if you had the right complexion for the connection, you were welcome into the club.
Right.
All right. So take it away. I done got you wound up.
Oh my God.
Take it away.
See look. See what I'm talking about, the language? You got me wound up.
Yeah. Go ahead, take it away.
There you go. Well, I'd like to take it back to the early days of slavery. After the Moorish invasion of Spain, and even during the Moorish invasion of Spain. You got to remember that Spaniards from the northern part of Spain, very light complected, for a number of different reasons. It has to do with ultraviolet rays. Mm-hmm.
Are you sure it doesn't have anything to do with them not being conquered by the Moorish?
Well, we're getting to that.
We're going to get to that? Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. But the northern part of Spain remained largely unconquered by the Moors. So the whole peninsula, the Iberian Peninsula, as Spain was once called, was not totally conquered. So the northern part of Spain did not suffer, so to speak, from the invasion of the Moors. Even though the Moors brought their libraries, they brought their language, they brought their artistic skills to Europe, most of Spain were totally illiterate before the invasion of the Moors. So the Moors brought an important component to the development of Spanish society that was not there in the beginning.
Let me interrupt for 1 second. I'm just giving some backstory.
Okay.
So the reason most of Europe was uneducated at this time, what Mario was saying, it was after the fall of the Roman Empire.
Right.
So Europe regressed into what they call the Dark Ages, and so that's why most of Europe was illiterate at that time. So just to give them some back,
That's good.
a little bit of back.
That's good. Yeah, throw it out there.
Go ahead.
Throw it out there. There's another one. That's another kind of woke thing. Just throw it out there. But yes, that's true. But because you had 700 years, some say 800, but roughly 700 years of Moorish occupation, understand the skin color of the Moors. Moors were mostly dark, brown skin, some lighter, some darker. They could come in different colors like a lot of people do. But because they were darker than the northern Spaniards or Iberians, then skin color became to be associated with their oppression. So they felt they were being oppressed by the Moors. So skin color became the dominating factor. So they would look at your skin color and then make a decision on whether you were white or not, based on skin color. They even took, when they did drawings, the conquistadors, and there's even a racial component of how they drew conquistadors. Conquistadors would often be holding a sword, posing for a drawing, and they would hold it up with the back of the hand facing toward the artist. And the purpose of that was to show that you could see blue in their veins. Now, contrary to what Grandma says, and I love grandmas, but not all of them are right. Sometimes Grandma is wrong. So I'm going into blasphemy now. But sometimes Grandma is wrong. Sorry, Grandma, sometimes you're wrong.
Now, if you see him on the street, Grandma, and you start throwing that chocolate, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, listen up, Grandma. Yeah, I'm a grandpa too, so you listen up. So back then, what they did was they came up with this term called blue blood. So if you could see some blueness in the skin, then you were considered pure white. But if you couldn't see any blueness, then the term they came up, in Spanish it was called sangre azul. Sangre meaning blood, azul meaning blue. So they would hold the sword this way so that the artist could kind of pencil in some blue veins. And that was proof that you, supposedly, and of course we know that's a bunch of garbage,
Right.
proof that you were white.
Right.
Because your blood is not blue and it turns red. This is what grandmas used to say when it hits the oxygen. No, it's not. It's red completely. That's a myth. It's not true. It only let me explain. I'm not going to my scientific mode.
Got it.
Because I'm woke.
Go for it.
It only appears blue if you have lighter skin. Now, a black person can have light skin where it might appear blue because your skin acts as a prism. And if you remember elementary school when the teacher came up with a prism, shined it up to the light, and as the light went through it, all kinds of different colors showed up on the other end. And if you did it with different kinds of paper, different colors would show up. You call that in science skin reflection, or the reflectance of skin. So when the sunlight hits the skin, because it acts in a reflective way, the color that seems to come back is blue, when in fact it's not. So I'm woke to the science.
Some of y'all, Mario, too woke. Right?
I'm too woke now. So this is where this comes from. So when the slave trade starts, Caleb, they have these ideas in their mind about what whiteness is. So when they go to Africa and begin to kidnap people from the African continent, then skin color becomes the defining factor, because in a way it already was in Spain and Portugal.
Right.
So they were already using that as a defining factor. It wasn't about class. No. There was no class struggle back in medieval times.
Right.
There was no working class and capitalist class. There was only what? The wealthy kings and queens.
Right. I'm gonna throw you another curveball.
All right, throw me something in there.
So we know that the southern part of Europe that was conquered by the Moors, or black Moors as well, and so they're darker, right?
Right.
In order, when Ferdinand married Isabella, and the houses of Castile and Leon united, and they wanted to drive the Moors out, the black folks out, right?
Yep.
They started the Inquisition to rid themselves of the darker skin blood.
Yep.
right?
That's right.
That pushed all the darker skinned blood out.
That's right.
So when the Portuguese went to Africa, right, they were the first.
That's right.
And they were determined, right? They already had this racial identity, right? And they had this animosity toward blackness or African skin. Do you think that's why the Portuguese were the first and the last to end slavery?
Yeah, that has something to do with it, because if you can't maintain the system of whiteness, which is special privilege, you can't maintain that if you're going to flip. Yeah, and in the black lexicon, I'm talking about flip.
Flip, gotcha.
I'm not just saying flip.
I got
I'm
you.
talking about flip.
Gotcha.
So they did. You didn't want to water down the system of white supremacy,
Right.
or superiority,
Right.
However you want to look at it, because you can make a distinction between those two terms. But however you want to look at it, they could not maintain that hierarchy of complete dominance at the top of a social pyramid.
Right.
That whiteness means more than all of the other colors below it.
Right.
So that I think that had a lot to do with it.
Okay.
And it was oh my gosh, it had a lot to do with where they went, what parts of Africa they went to, what Africans they enslaved, how they separated them on slave ships, not by color, but by tribe. And they would do that because if you went to one African country and you only took blacks from one tribe, then you were in trouble, because now they could talk to each other in the bottom of the deck. And they might have a mutiny. That happened on a slave ship Amistad, because all those guys, all the brothers were from Angola. They all spoke the same language. So what the slave masters started doing, Portuguese too, what they started learning is, let's only pick up 10 slaves from Angola. Let's go down the coast and pick up 10 more from here. And so maybe they had 400.
Yeah.
But none, and then separate them
Right.
at the bottom of the ship. So you're chained up next to a guy next to you, and you're saying, "Hey, man," in some language.
Yeah.
And he's
And they can't understand.
I don't know what you're saying.
Right. Right.
So they learned to separate people, not just by skin color, but also by language.
By language.
So, and that kind of reminds me of nowadays when people are mad because some people speak Spanish. They're like, "But Bad Bunny's going to do the Super Bowl in Spanish." So what? I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to record it, and I'm going to love it. And then I'm woke.
We woke. So we went there today. We talking about race and color in this country, right? So Mario,
I kind of got off subject.
no, we're good. We're good.
All right.
Look, we went there. We said we would talk about the invention of whiteness.
Right.
Right. How it came to be. How it came. And how it manifested
Italians
itself.
became white.
Italians became white. Greeks became white. Everybody became white. So we went there. We gave them something, right? We gave them some wokeness. Right.
And we're not anti-woke. We gave you the truth.
We gave you some truth. We gave you some wokeness, right? So what else we going? Where else we going on this journey today, bro?
Well, let me add something in there that I think is quite interesting. You know, when they organized the first 13 colonies, when people came over from different parts of Europe, there were two religions that dominated in Europe after the fall of the Moors, because Islam began to wane. But so two religions began to dominate, Protestant and Catholic.
Right.
And they were murdering each other for
Absolutely.
at least 500 years.
Yeah,
5
absolutely.
centuries. Catholic called for the murder of Protestants. Protestants murdered them back. The St. Bartholomew's Day massacre was the murder, I can't remember which, probably Catholics. And when they brought that hatred, religious intolerance, hatred, to this country, if you were a Catholic and by mistake you got on a Protestant ship or you got on a ship that was dropping off people into Protestant colonies, you were in trouble.
Yeah,
So this religious hatred in America was horrible. They burned Mary Dice, who was a Quaker. I think she wound up in a Protestant colony. She was a Quaker. When they asked her to convert to Protestantism, she said no. They burned her alive at the stake. This is how hatred of religion was so bad. So how did they eliminate that? well, let's see, 1789, they wanted to have a United States, and they already defeated the British. Well, how are we going to eliminate this quarreling by religion? I know, the First Amendment, freedom of religion and speech. So they eliminated one craziness, but they didn't eliminate the other one, racism.
Right.
So racism winds up being protected, whereas hatred by religion winds up being knocked out.
Knocked
So I
out.
can make the argument that freedom of religion was established to maintain white supremacy. And that wasn't just about freedom of religion, right? It was also, let's stop hating people because of a religion, and now let's just hate them because of their skin color.
Right,
Or
right.
because they don't speak English, they're speaking
Right.
Comanche or Apache.
Right.
You know.
So we're going there.
Yeah.
We're going there. We're going there. All right.
Yeah,
So look.
So,
Right.
go ahead.
No. So let's go from there, right? So we're now establishing a racial hierarchy in this country.
Right.
Okay. And so in this country, we're going to tie this together. So we've established a racial hierarchy. How do we maintain this racial hierarchy, right?
By fake science, number one.
Fake science,
Right.
right? Pseudoscience.
Pseudoscience.
And again, demographically, we need to convince the mass of white people, the wealthy white people need to convince the masses of white people that they are racially superior, right? And so that's how we maintain this hierarchy. That's how we maintain control. That's how you get very few plantation owners to get millions of poor white non-slave owners to go to war to protect their wealth.
Can't nobody say he ain't woke.
No,
nobody say that.
no, I get it from this man and Fred.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, that's right. Well, how do you get tens of thousands of poor white guys to fight for the Confederacy? Because if slavery ever... Look, most whites never owned slaves, true.
Right.
But that ain't the whole story. The whole story is they still thought of themselves as superior to
Racially
blacks.
superior.
So, look, if slavery ended, then they would lose that white privilege.
They would lose the white
So
privilege.
that's how you get all these poor whites to go and die for Robert E. Lee,
Right.
the gentleman of the South.
Right.
You know, the guy on the slave plantation porch being fanned by a black slave. you know,
Right.
Clark Gable and Gone with the Wind. That's how you get poor whites to fight for you. In my opinion, that's how Donald Trump gets poor whites to fight for him.
Right.
Because he's saying you might be poor, but you're still white like me.
Right.
So this is the game that racism plays.
Right.
And unfortunately, and the bad part is, it still works. And
Right.
it became scientific by a so-called scientist named Johann Blumenbach. There were no Caucasians, there were no white people per se until he gave that definition. He invented the term race, he invented the term Caucasian. Blumenbach around 1830s, 1840s, somewhere in there. I'm sorry, 1730s, 1840s. Given these terms, all black people were called the Ethiopian race at one point.
Right, right.
When nothing could be further from the truth. That part Arab. But and then he invented Caucasians, and then this was taught at Yale and Harvard for hundreds of years.
Right,
So
right.
people walking around, you know, saying, "Well, what is your race?" There's no such thing as race. There's only one, right? But then they divide. Blumenbach, miners, there's several of them. Miners, Blumenbach, there's a bunch of them. They develop race based on skin color and develop these terms. So people nowadays, I've known people right now who will tell you, "Oh, I'm Caucasian." No, you're not. There's no such thing. Blumenbach, the guy, I know the guy's name. He's the one that invented the term
right.
Caucasian. And the irony of that, Caleb, is when you go to the Caucasus Mountains in Europe, those people are slightly, they're not quite as white as ethnic Russians. And that had to do because of the invasion of the Moors.
Right.
So even the original Caucasians are not as white as they thought they were.
And the other thing is, though, there's no places genetically diverse as Africa, right?
Right.
And so it is the progenitors of all mankind. So you can go to African continent and you will see people with blonde hair and blue eyes and black skin. You will see people with red hair and black skin and green eyes, and you will see there is no place that's genetically diverse. So the idea that you can take characteristics like blonde hair and blue eyes and make those Aryan characteristics when they originated in Africa is ridiculous. And so you had so many pseudoscientists that came with these whack theories, these quack scientists that came up with these just insane classifications, right?
Anti-woke philosophy.
Yeah, they're just insane. So we went there today on race and color and the pseudosciences. And so anything else you want to say about?
We have to make Dr. Sharon and Chris go on a wild thing like what we just did. Because I'm hoping they're as woke as we are.
They're as woke as we are.
We might put them to the test on one of the next shows.
So we had a wonderful conversation today about we went there, skin and race and the classification and what it means in this country. So, and this is a part of a larger conversation. Mario and I, we had fun today doing this, and so it is part of a larger conversation about race in this country and about the conversation that we need to have as a society, as a country, and how to actually move forward. You know what I mean? And get rid of this ignorance. So there's a lot of ignorance out there, and a lot of division, a lot of divisiveness that the people like to. It's basically a divide and conquer, right?
That's
and
right.
So yeah, and it's absolutely.
They don't even want you talking about people that are racist, and they try to make those people into heroes. Robert Lee's a hero. He's a racist. He's a slave owner.
Right.
There have been attempts to fire people when people say Charlie Kirk is a racist.
Right.
When Charlie Kirk himself said things that were racist. And there's no doubt about it.
Right.
He was. Sorry he got killed that way. But as the pastor once said, the way how you died does not excuse how you lived.
Right.
And so you can't change history by saying he was not a racist. He was. And not in my words, in his own words.
Right. So yeah, hopefully this conversation sparks a wider conversation about race, about culture in this country, about who we are. And again, this country never had a racial reckoning. It never had the conversation that it needed to have after slavery. It needs to have a conversation about humanity, about these false classifications, and about how this country decides to move forward. And there will be a post-Trump era in this, and there's a lot of healing, certainly a lot of healing that needs to be done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just again, maybe we could learn from South Africa and the Racial Reconciliation Commission, and
maybe so,
and have those conversations.
Maybe so. And there are some people right now who are fessing up to the fact they were racist at one point in their life, and I ain't mad at them for that. That's great. That's great. If you can fess up to the way you thought about a subject, and now you know you're wrong, that's an indication you're brave. Number one. Number two, you're woke. you got a little bit of intelligence. Finally got some intelligence. So yeah, folks, before we have this conversation outside of our community, we need to have it inside of our community though as well. And so that way we can march with one voice in unity, and we need to definitely move forward in supporting each other's just supporting each other's businesses, building black economic ecospheres, black wealth, black intellectualism, educating ourselves on race and history, because unless we have our own house together, we can't have a broader conversation with others. And so I think that's the first step. So hopefully this conversation that Mario and I had will open other doors and continue this conversation. But it's been fun. And so Mario, anything else? Oh, just anybody that gets woke, no matter, even people that still identify themselves as white, when they get woke, that's good too.
Yeah.
We need, and I agree with you. We need to have that conversation about anti-racism. We need to have that conversation.
Right. All right. Well, this has been Contemporary Black Voices Hot Topics, and racism is certainly a hot topic, especially in this day and age. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to check out the main show. We had a great main show today, and we will definitely be back next week. We want to thank our producer, Carl Booker. And again, don't forget to pick up the newspaper, Blacks in San Antonio, and continue to support us. And hit the like and subscribe.
Stay woke.
Stay woke.